and welcome to this fan favorite episode of Sass and Sips. I'm Lisa.
And I'm Agnes.
And we have a special guest with us today. Jeffrey, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi. Thank you for having me on. My name is Jeff Bisti. I'm a software engineer in relatively upstate New York. And I got to watch Lost Season 1 all over again for this episode. So I'm excited about this.
Nice. Well, thank you for the effort, and we're really glad that you're here with us.
Thank you.
So what's everybody drinking today?
Well, I decided to go fancy today and drink my little peach Bellini. No, raspberry Bellini. So, yes, special occasion.
I have a good old Stella.
Can't go wrong.
I've got a Lagunitas IPA in a special old bitter glass.
Very cool.
Nice.
Well, cheers.
Cheers.
So, which part of season 1 or what about season 1 made you want to come chat about it?
Well, I watched I remember watching Lost when it first came out, like in real time. So I watched it like week by week by week. And I remember each episode, like as soon as like the title card came up at the end of each episode, with a wah, that thing, it immediately hit me like, oh no, I have to wait another week to like get resolution on what just got set up. But I definitely remember a turning point in the show in season 1. And it's at the end of episode 17 where the batteries run out on Hurley's, I guess it's a CD player, Discman, when he's listening to like a nice, island type happy, we're all happy to be here kind of song, and it just shuts off. And I think that's like the moment when the show turns from a bunch of people stuck on an island doing what you would do if you got stuck on an island to a bunch of people dealing with something that is mysterious and maybe even like a little bit supernatural at that point. I'm sorry.
No, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
I'm just thinking like that's like when like you really start to be introduced to like the two sides of people, like the before and after, and like there's like mystical powers and tricks on your perception going on there. People start hallucinating, having dreams, and that being like when it's like, okay, this is more than just Gilligan's Island from a plane. This is something bizarre and interesting.
I was just going to say that I agree with you. I feel like the whole time there is this strange aspect to the island, but I think that that's when reality starts to set in more. Because before that, you hear the music in the Discman, and that wasn't the first time that we saw that. But it was like an overall, it was almost like the audience, the music was there for the benefit of the audience, not necessarily that Hurley was listening to it. And so at that moment, it brought the two worlds together. And his music dies, and he's like, son of a bitch. And and we're like, oh wait, you can hear that? Like, shit's getting real.
That's almost like an airplane or one of those who did Airplane? Zucker brothers, where the like that breaking the fourth wall kind of thing. But yeah, I was like, yeah, we can hear that too.
Yeah.
So you also mentioned about how the characters had grown. So do you want to talk more about that?
Right, and it's I think it's right around there, or maybe a little bit before or after, where everyone comes in with like their exterior character. Especially I'm thinking about Sawyer, because he starts out as like I don't know, almost like a character out of like I don't know, some show that I wouldn't watch, but like, and he turns from like this utter despicable dick of a person into like a somewhat likable dick of a person, like, and I think that happens when he gets his glasses and he realizes like he has to depend on other people. You find out a little more about his backstory, and it that's when you start to see, okay, well, there's the people who have like kind of flipped the person who flipped the most is obviously, I think, John Locke. I mean, he goes from not being able to walk to like Mr. Mountain Man out there. And he probably has the most to gain from the island. And he doesn't want to leave it. He doesn't want things to change. But that's like when you start saying, okay, obviously there's a physical change with him. With the others, it's like more of like, I can develop into this other person out here. And with like the situation we're in right now with the the COVID-19 lockdown and everything like that, it starts getting me thinking about like, okay, who are our characters in the before and the after with all this too? Because we're dealing with something somewhat similar.
That's a really interesting take on it.
Maybe I've been thinking too much about it.
I mean, what else do we have to do, right?
Right. It is good
Thinking,
quarantine watching though.
Yeah. Right? Yeah, we actually just recorded our season 1 finale, and that was one of the things that we touched on, is how much the characters have grown over the first season, and how much the season finale highlighted their growth. So you see how they were when they got to the island, and in island time only about a month has passed, and they've grown into such different people in just that short amount of time.
Right. And when you look at like the characters that got chosen to be on the raft or the pontoon or the boat or whatever we're going to call it, like those are characters that would not have stood each other at the beginning.
Yeah, definitely.
No, or in real life, if there was never a crash, they would have associated with one another. Like if they met each other in the park, they'd be like, yeah, okay, no, that's never happening. And now they become best buds, relatively speaking, compared to they were a month prior.
Right.
I think it's almost interesting. I really like at the end of, I think it's the last episode of season 1, they're showing those flashbacks to Hurley rushing through the airport, and they show that kind of airport level interaction people are having.
Mm-hmm.
And early on in the show, early on in that season, they're having that like people in an airport level interaction with one another, where it's like, I'm going to acknowledge you're there, and then I'm not going to walk into you, but I'm not going to make eye contact or like invest anything with you. And eventually they realize, oh, we really have to depend on each other. But just like the way that I mean, Jin Soo Kwon doesn't speak English, and yet he's one of the people on the boat because of what he can bring to the party. So it's very interesting the way it ends. You mentioned earlier, Lisa, what they do with the music is at the end you are really thinking like, oh boy, they're getting off the island, this is it, how is this going to happen? It's the biggest smackdown of like, oh no, that's actually no, it's actually not, it's going to go negative at that point, which you don't expect at all.
Yeah, that's definitely one of my favorite things about this show, as somebody who has seen it, is this whole fake out thing that it tries to do to you every episode. And some episodes obviously work better than others, but here it is, try to lead you down the path and get you thinking in one direction. And then by the end of the episode, it's like, gotcha. I guess it's too smart though.
It's feel like you're expecting it. You're like, okay, I know where you're going with this, but how are you going to get there? I'm waiting for you. So there is some kind of, it's not completely anticlimactic. I know they're going to try to trick us, but I'm like, okay, how is the good part? So I'm not completely immune to it, just partially.
Yeah, now, she sees through some of it, and it's like, damn it.
Professional TV watcher.
Well, this is. I almost wonder how much, and I'm sure there's people looked into this before, how much of the plot was planned out by the time they were actually filming and everything, or how much was it like? It almost feels like they were playing like one of those college drinking games where you have to like. You go around with everything, and then somebody adds something new into it, and then you have to go around again, because every episode's like, oh, by the way, there's also this numbers thing. Let me tell you about this. Now,
didn't I say that? Like most of it was probably a happy accident. Yeah. and at the end of the series, people like the writers are like, yes, that's exactly what we meant.
Look, they're in the writing room, and they're like, okay, you have to draw a card. Smoke monster, polar bear.
Sure, why not?
Go for it.
Now, maybe you can help me out with this, because I'm pretty sure I'm wrong on this. Is the first time that they see the numbers, is that when Hurley is talking about the lottery, or did that come in earlier? I didn't get to listen to all your episodes. I saw there was one about the numbers though.
Yes. So the first time the audience sees, no, wait a minute. No. Okay, in Hurley's episode, Hurley sees the numbers on a map that the maps that Saeed took from Rousseau. Hurley
Right.
sees the numbers but doesn't say anything about the numbers.
Right.
So only the audience has that knowledge of the lotto and the numbers and the significance. And then at the end of the episode, the camera and the audience gets to see the numbers engraved in the hatch.
Right.
But the survivors don't know that they're on the island, except for Hurley, in the sense that they're on the map.
I have
Right.
a question. So after the whole lotto episode, we see the numbers either individually or group throughout the rest of the season. Question, I just not thought about it. Do those numbers pop up prior without us knowing it?
Not
Like, were we like, I'm sure we might not be cognitive of it, but is it one like, oh, episode 3, this number 23, what, like, I don't know. Was it?
Yeah, so it pops up in the sense of like the reward to catch Kate when Ray turned her in was $23,000,
and we're like, that was an odd number. We're like, what, 23? Like,
and Jack's seat on the plane is 23. He has 4 scratches on his face. They come up in ways like that. The flight number is 815, so that's
pay attention to
2 of the numbers.
Yeah.
But they don't come up blatantly until that episode.
But they do come up. Okay, I'm trying to go back. I'm like, did they ever come up? I don't remember.
Yeah. Wasn't there when somebody's switching seats on the plane? No, Hurley has to. Is it when Hurley's has to get a seat on the plane and they have to switch or something like that?
He has to buy a second seat.
Yeah, no, but I think you're thinking of when Jack is talking to Ana Lucia, and she says she's in 42 and he's in 23.
Right.
And they, I think he says, oh, so you want to switch? Or she says you want to switch, yeah.
Right. Okay. But I think the first time actually, like the first time when they actually they all come together is when Hurley is just running through the forest going like, the numbers are bad, the numbers are bad.
That's when they were with the dynamite.
Yes.
Because that's when he saw them.
Have you talked about, I'm sorry, I haven't gone through the whole catalog yet, but have you talked about our lovable extra character who got to be in a whole episode and a half yet?
Arst?
Yes.
Science teacher?
Yes.
Dude.
It was like he got brought up from the Bush Leagues. Like, you get to be a main character for like for 20 minutes.
Yeah, I
kind of felt sorry for him, but I didn't feel sorry for him. It's like he's still stuck in middle school, like him himself. He's still stuck in middle school being picked last for dodgeball, and that carried him all through his life and his career, and even on the island. I'm like, dude, get over it.
It was I think that he played a good role because he asked questions and made observations that the rest of us watching had, like, what about the rest of the people? You guys are so cliquey.
I thought that was really funny. I got to that episode like 2 days ago. I was laughing so hard because it was like a representative from the audience going like, you see all of us in the background. How come we don't get to like basically like have lines?
Right, except for like Scott and Steve.
Yeah.
Well, the writers are much nicer than I was because I expect them to kill off half the survivors by now. Like, I just expected it. Like, okay, some massive explosion and half of them die, but, I guess forgetting about them is a little bit better. Maybe.
They'll make and when I saw him come in, I'm like, either they're bringing in a new character or like this is like a red shirt from Star Trek. Like his purpose is to die and teach us all a lesson. But I did love the way that Jack was rolling his eyes at him, because he was teaching him. My wife is a teacher, and sometimes she pulls out her teacher voice, and I'm like, oh, okay, sorry, because she was like, no, wait, and he's telling Jack and everybody like, what did I tell you to come over here? No, you stop, you wait. And I was like, oh, this is gonna add an interesting bit of dynamic, and as soon as that happened, kaboom. That's some very selectively exploding dynamite too, I'll have to say.
It was definitely
right,
even.
He's like, boom.
And even
you
seeing,
have to look at the screen. You look at the screen. You're like, did that just? Yeah, it did happen.
But
okay.
even after you know that it's gonna happen, still watching that episode, you're like, it's still right.
There's
bits of arts on you.
Yes.
Yeah, they did a really good job with the graphics and that was, I was like, oh, that's pretty good. It just wasn't just like Myst. They had a little bit of pieces into it. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah,
texture into the Myst.
It's like I forget what state it was, but when like a whale turned up on the beach and they blew it up with dynamite, and like chunks were landing like blocks away.
Why were they? Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the other thing, right around episode 17, I think it is episode 17, is also where like Locke starts to crack, because he gets that piece of shrapnel in his leg, and like I'm not sure, I wasn't sure what happens there. Like either he doesn't feel it, or because his leg's going numb again, or he doesn't feel it because of like adrenaline or whatever, but like he starts like regressing into old Locke, it feels like, or before Locke.
When you say old Locke, do you mean like the sad, helpless guy? Okay.
But you could definitely see he was still fighting it. Like he felt it coming on. He felt him losing the new Locke, and you could see he's still kind of fighting it. So
yeah.
But yeah, his leg, he didn't feel it because his leg was starting to go numb. Then he's like, oh shit.
Yeah, and was it Charlie out there with him, or Charlie or Boone that was? No,
it was Boone.
Boone's like, there's like, a propeller in your leg or whatever, and he's like, oh, okay, yeah, like. And did that just go away? Like, I forget, how did that resolve itself?
It resolved itself. You mean the whole leg situation?
Yeah.
After he had the accident in the airplane, all of a sudden Locke can walk again. Because he carried him back to the camp.
With the sea urchin blood transfusion thing.
Right. That was kind of cool, though. I gotta say.
That was cool. I'm just wondering how they did that without getting like air on the line.
Took it to another level.
Yeah, exactly.
I actually thought about that too. I'm like, well, tactically speaking, that would have killed him, but I get it. I'll let it go.
Yeah, so when that happened, Locke definitely started cracking, and I don't know if it was that episode or one shortly after, where he kept saying like that the island is trying to take it back.
Yes. Yeah, and I made a note. He said earlier, like a couple episodes earlier, he said like the island gives us all a second chance, or we're all reborn, or it was something like that. It's like, looking right towards the camera, like just so you notice, it's a second life out here. But yeah, of everybody, Locke he's gaining the most from the flip or whatever is going on. Like he's enjoying this the most, and of course he will not want things to change. He's loving this.
I don't blame him. Like he's important now, from being a quad and a wheelchair to being actually needed and productive member of society. I wouldn't want to leave either.
Yeah. Well, and watching the show before and being familiar with Locke, I forgot how pathetic, and pathetic isn't a good word to use, but like how sad he was in the beginning. Like he's on the phone with, I'm assuming it's a call girl who like, is saying like, I have to charge you another hour at this point. And like, just not even to any of his own faults. People just don't regard him as a person at all.
And it actually started with his parents. This is before he was handicapped, a quad. His parents just used him as, a grocery store for organs.
Yeah.
So that was not a really good metaphor, but
it was a funny metaphor.
we all knew where you were going.
So it makes me wonder, like, we see like how he was treated and perceived by everyone in his life before and after whatever the accident was. But I can't help but to see more in him. I'm like, but why do they treat him this way? Even when he was playing Mousetrap in the store and he was an employee, I'm like, dude is kind of like, he's cool. He might, a little bit of a loner, but he's not like creepy loner. So I'm like, I would have been friends with Locke.
He almost reminded me of the Robin Williams character in 1 Hour Photo when he's working in the store.
I didn't see that one.
I've actually seen it a long time ago, but I've seen it. Yeah, imagine that.
Locke with hair is a trip, though.
I have to like check my notes on the show every so often, so I'm not playing the phone. I'm just like refreshing my memory.
So let's go back to that scene, because I think that after that's when Locke kind of doubled down on his faith in the island, because the shrapnel landed in his leg and he couldn't feel it, and he was afraid that it was taking it back. But then after Boone fell, he had the strength. He carried Boone and ran back to the caves, and everything seemed to be fine again. And so now, well, maybe not fine again, because that's when he went back to the hatch and pounded on the door and the light came on. And because he was like, this was supposed to work.
Yes.
And so then after that, it was like a sign from, the others, the God in the, it was a sign from the God in the machine.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he's like, well, that was a sacrifice that the island demanded. And it was all of a sudden, it's like, double down. This is my faith. This is what I believe in. This is what we have to do. And it's like, now he's hit the ground running. This is his only focus. And it's exciting where it's going to take him.
Yeah. And he is determined to make sense out of this, just because, he is winning right now. At life, but he is determined to say, no, this is the way it's supposed to be, and the things go like this. And I wonder if Locke sees some of himself in young Walter, because he really takes him under his wing. Like twice with the burning of the first ship, and the second time he says, I know you didn't poison your dad, even though he has reason to believe it. If he's kind of trying to like make good or pay it forward in that kind of sense, and how he attaches himself to Walt.
In one of the last episodes, I don't remember which one of the finale it was, where Walt sees Locke washing the blood out of his shirt.
Yeah. And
Walt gives him like, and like you said, they've always had like this really good relationship. And Walt just kind of stares at him, and Locke is like, hey. And Walt is just like not feeling it. He's like, so all of a sudden then you see that even their dynamic changes. And then in the scene where they touch each other, I forgot who touches whose arm, but Walt is like, don't open that thing.
Yeah.
And
there's no way he would know anything about it one way or the other at that point.
Yeah. It's such a cool moment, because you've got like this whole dynamic shift where Walt is like, you are my friend, but now something's not cool, and I know something about what you're up to, and don't do it. And now Locke is like, okay, like he obviously takes in what Walt says. He hears him, but he does it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like Locke is now creating this divide among a lot of people, because he's got this whole thing with Boone where the survivors are like, he killed him, because Jack went and told everybody that. So obviously Shannon is not feeling Locke. Saeed is only keeping Locke around because he feels like he's necessary. Walt doesn't want to be bothered with him. Michael is already kind of like, Locke could go kick rocks. And And then even more so than the whole Boone issue, Locke and Jack are having this divide that's getting bigger and bigger because Locke is just solely focused on the hatch. It's crazy to me how this like whole I know it kind of sounds dorky, but it's like they're fictional characters, but they're really so well developed that that you feel, you feel it.
Because you feel like, because you find that most characters are one-dimensional. If you love them or you don't like them, but you find like this is something. These are people that you will probably meet in your everyday life, and you're like, oh, I like you, but or I hate you. But you have these like this. This is all gray. It's not just black and white at all. And very few times you ever see a TV show when you feel that way about a character. They're multifaceted, and they're like onions, all these layers. You're like, okay, this is kind of like real life, or like real people.
And you can see them TV. Existing as real people. You can almost picture what they'll do in their lives when the camera's not rolling, so to speak.
Yeah. I mean, I when you were saying that, I was thinking about Hurley, because you start out with a certain set of expectations about him, and the more you learn about his family and the lottery thing, and just and then later on you learn about like this insane sense of paranoia that he's been carrying with him this whole time about these numbers, and you think like, okay, how often does this string of numbers come up? And here they are on this island again. That's when like the supernatural starts to creep in. And I definitely remember, how old is this show? It's like 15, 16 years ago when I was first watching it, just being blown away and going, oh my God, the numbers are there too. Like this, like a mirror somewhat got messed up in the transfer copy of a universe going on over there.
Yeah.
Hurley and Charlie are like two of my, and they have some incredible moments, like brief moments together, like when they're taking care of Claire's baby on the beach the first time. They have some hilarious, heartwarming, touching body language between the two of them. They don't even need to look at each other in the eye. It's just like the, oh my God, what do we do kind of thing going on. I love that.
Is that the universal language between men of fear of babies? It's kind of like like they understand it. Every man around the world understands it, right?
Do we point it this way? Does this help?
And I love the fact that the baby loves Sawyer.
Right.
Like that just made me actually love Sawyer even more, because he's like, damn it. Like he's like, fine, I'll do it. But he's just like, fuck, I gotta be a human. Like, and he still does it.
And you know that even though he bitched and moaned about how shut baby Huey up and the crying bothered him, but you know that he sat there and read that magazine because he has a heart and not because he
that
just
baby needed it. Yeah.
Right.
And what was the magazine? It was like the
like an automotive.
Yeah, it was like a manual or something. Yeah.
Feel the thrust of 400 horsepower and a quad clutch. Oh, I almost got you. How's that Stella smell?
Oh my God. I really almost spit it out. I'm good.
That's what she said.
There's one other thing I had.
I swallowed.
Well, there you go. The Black Rock.
Yes.
That has like 3 minutes of screen time in season 1. Like it's really just like let's plant this over here just so it's here for later kind of thing. And I'm not even trying to be coy. Like I literally don't remember what it's used for in later episodes, or if it is. But I just the whole time you're thinking, Black Rock is like a black rock or like a fort or a house or something like that. And it's a boat in the middle of the island.
Mm-hmm.
Did you get into that at all, or like what do we think is going on at that point?
So yeah, we did touch upon it briefly, but not much. So like what we had talked about is from the very first episode. Well, I'm not sure if it was the first part or the second part of the pilot, but from the pilot, we realized that in the transmission that they hear from Rousseau, she does mention the Black Rock, although it is not translated. But I've heard in my life, I don't remember where, but that if you do speak French, you will hear about the Black Rock in the transmission. So the fact that it's alluded to even from the pilot episode, it has to have some significance. And it took, and we did hear about it from Claire, and I'm not sure if we heard about it from somewhere else also, but besides Rousseau. But we hear about it here and there during the first season, and then we finally get, oh shit, like it's a ship, a big ass ship in the middle of the jungle. So yeah, you take your guesses, and like Art said, it's like, well, it could have been a what's he say, a tsunami. Yeah. And Rousseau is like, are you on the same island that I am? You know, which is great because it speaks to us as the audience. And, you know,
to be fair though, that ship based on the construction is a lot older than the time period they're in. Even so, I have a feeling that it could have been thrown up there. Could be like one of those freak storms 100 years ago, right? And just whoosh, blew it up there. So it's still possible.
I mean, look,
like right now we're in the midst of 100 perfect storms every year. Right. So I'm assuming there was one perfect storm that just went whoosh. Here's a ship.
So without giving,
I know.
So without giving any spoilers, I mean, we will get more information on it. The show will talk about it again, and you'll just learn a little bit more about the ship, you know, like kind of like how it got there, whatever. It's not the bigger reveal. I don't know what is going on with my audio. I'm sorry. I don't know if you hear that. The bigger reveal is that there's a fucking ship in the middle of the jungle. And I think that's what the point was at that moment, more so than what, you know, like what was the ship for?
Right.
I think at this point of the like as you're watching it, you're not surprised by anything. You're like, okay, a ship. That's I think when we talked about it, I'm like, okay, yeah, so what? There's a ship. There's a polar bear before. There's a monster that's like this. A ship in the middle of the island really is kind of logical at this point in time. You're like, you're not surprised by it.
Yeah,
right.
So
really,
they're conditioning us just to expect anything. I mean, there could be a walking, talking snowman. There could be and
I would like that.
That would be great. Or like, you know, imagine Charlie coming back from a hike. He's, guys, there's a water slide over here. Like anything, you would take it.
What? But why'd you have to ruin the water slide for? You know, there goes the spoilers.
There's no spoilers. Pretend you didn't hear about the water slide.
What? I didn't hear what? I think it's more like Hunger Games, where you just have people placing things in the middle of the island. Like, okay, let's put in a ship. Boom, there's your polar bear. Like,
it's like playing Calvin Ball or whatever as a kid.
That's what she's looking at me like.
Oh yeah, that tree is electric. You can't touch that tree.
Like, yeah, exactly. And she's looking at me like, what? I don't get it. Okay.
Sorry, I've never seen Hunger Games.
That's the look I always give when she's talking about the show. I'm like, huh? I don't get it.
Have either of you played the game Myst?
No.
There's this. No. It was one of the first CD-ROM games. It's called Myst. MYST. And that it was like a couple episodes in of the show where I realized, oh wait a second, this is a lot like this CD-ROM game. And it was you land, you start out on an island with like no clues, no instructions, no narrative or anything, and you just like click around and you explore this island. And like there are these like, you have to go to like this one windmill and turn a crank the right number of times, and that number of times is written on a book you find in this bookcase in another part of the island. And you spend awesome. The whole game exploring this island, but it's like a 1990 CD-ROM game.
I feel like my husband must have had that game because it wasn't like a blue cover or like a light blue. Yeah, I've seen it.
It has a picture of an island with like a gear kind of on the front of it.
Yeah.
And it has that, it gave me that same, that I think that's why I was like immediately drawn to the show, because I'm like, here I am. I don't need to, I'm the premise of an island, same with like Gilligan's Island. It provides like a great plot structure where it's like, you don't have to worry about anything else except what's on this island and these people. Okay, cool. Got it. Like, no one's going to drop by unless they're like the Harlem Globetrotters for an episode or something like that. Or a science teacher. But it's like, okay, everything is self-contained on here. Fantastic. Got it. And it's the same way with Myst. It's like, okay, I don't need to, there's no characters to learn. I'm the only person on this island, more or less. And like, you're picking up clues. And by the end, you're just piecing things together. And it gave me a lot of that same kind of vibe.
I might have to check that out now.
You should check it out. I mean, it's kind of dated now because it's not even like full motion video. It's just pictures with like some like moving water in like this section of the frame because that's all they could handle at that point. But still, same exact part of my brain lit up when I started watching the show.
I mean, this is getting off topic, but you know, this is what we do.
Yeah. Right. Off topic is on topic.
Have you ever played King's Quest? Like Rosella? I used to love that game.
Is that like the full motion? It's like a full motion-ish video where there's like a guy with like a giant sword.
It was a woman, and she had to somehow get to like, oh my god, this was going back to the 90s, and we used to play on the computer like MS-DOS, and she had to explore like her realm in order to like save her mom or dad, and she would swim and there would be sharks, so she would have to like, and you'd have to type commands like, Rosella, look under bridge, Rosella, you know, walk, or whatever. And it was so, you know, looking back now and what kind of games, and we have VR and everything, like so much cooler. But I used to sit in front of my computer for hours with family playing this game, and we used to make her fall down the stairs because it was like
and
funny.
Fall up the stairs?
Rosella falls up the stairs. Rosella falls down the stairs.
Because there was a haunted house in the game, and it had like this horrible spiral staircase. So we'd like get her up one step, save, get her up another step, save, because it was. And so like after all that work of step save, we just would throw her off at the end, like just let's see it. Or you could tell her like lay in the bed, but if you told her to undress, she'd say like not in front of the viewers. It was like she had jokes.
Yeah.
But
okay.
anyway, it's like
you're a sociopath. Okay.
I know. Like I like games like that because you had to find clues. You had to, you know, like find the magic ball under the troll bridge in order to bring it to whatever, to get to the next thing. So I always like games like that, and apparently I have the patience to sit there and play them.
And kill the character while you're at it.
It's fine because once we went back to the last save, she was alive again.
Yeah.
You know? But and yeah, you had
you
to.
Know, you sound like a lot of serial killers out there. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
And when you got her up through the staircase into the tower, she played the organ. Yeah. Anyway.
It's a great story. It's a great way of telling a story. And the only way you could ever get through those games is if you were able to put yourself into that character, because they would say like, okay, you were in a car or something like that, or maybe not even a car, like you're in a kitchen, and unless you could picture yourself in a kitchen, you wouldn't think to say, well, turn on the sink, because obviously there's a sink in a kitchen. Like you really had to put yourself there. And I love those games. And again, this is way off topic, but I'm loving this because 500 people playing the same game. If you ask them like, what color was the kitchen that you were in that game? They would, you know, not there's 500 different colors, but like they would all have a completely different mental image of what that kitchen was. And that sense of the unknown and filling in the blanks from your own mind, like I think that lights up a part of the brain that you don't get to have too often. But yeah, so if you get a chance, check out Myst. It's
I think I'm gonna have to. It's probably in my attic because my husband doesn't throw anything away.
Would it even work on today's computer? I feel like you would have to find an old PC, like go knocking on like Bill Gates' door, like, hey, you have an old computer we can use in your attic somewhere? I just want to play this game. Thanks, appreciate it, dude.
I remember they did like an updated version of it because like we can make such better graphics now, and I played it and I was like, eh.
It's never
Like,
the
It's
same.
not the same.
It's just not there.
That's the whole point. Like when they redo cartoons and you have different voices and different cartoons, you're like, yeah, no, you killed it. Sorry.
They
what
remade
the original we want to see.
She-Ra, and I used to love watching She-Ra every day after school. I was like the only kid in our class. Everybody was like, no, we're watching Dennis the Menace. I'm like, nobody watches
No,
She-Ra.
I was all about She-Ra.
And they remade it, and I'm like, what the hell is this shit? This is not She-Ra. Get out of
I'd
here.
rather them just put out the old ones again. That's it. That's it. I don't care. Like even like DuckTales. I'm like Carmen Sandiego. I'm still looking for Carmen Sandiego. I know. Leave me alone.
You can find them on YouTube, I think.
The old one.
Yeah.
Yeah, YouTube. I can find them on YouTube because like every time I look on Netflix and the other ones, they're like the new ones. I'm like, yeah, no, sorry.
The one with
And
Rock
then I want to
Capella?
find that's the show with yes. Yes, I want to find the actual show with Big Pin and yeah. I have no life.
Agnes, where
And
you
Stein's
said
money.
you're in the South. Where are you from? Like, where'd you grow up?
I'm actually from New York.
Okay.
Born and raised, and right now I live in Wisconsin.
Oh no. What happened?
I'm still here.
What happened with what?
I don't know. Oh, okay.
It says recording.
I'm glad
Yeah.
somebody sees that because okay.
Yeah, we see recording.
Okay.
We just see you like freaking out.
Yeah, my screen just went blank.
Oh wow.
Okay.
Oh.
All right.
You mentioned Wisconsin, it goes blank.
See, see?
Zoom doesn't
Even
like
the computer
Wisconsin
feels
either.
my pain. No, it had a moment of silence for me.
Because I grew up in New Jersey, so I think we all had the same tri-state TV channels growing up.
Yeah.
And this is way off topic, but I'm having fun. Like, do you remember like crazy stuff that would show up on Channel 9, like disguised as a kids show, like Steam Pipe Alley with
Yes, I remember the name. I can't remember the show, but yeah, I remember all
Mario
these weird
Cantone.
shit. Oh yes. I was like, "What is?" Yeah, I don't get it. It was.
Yes.
I
like vaguely rings a bell.
Do you remember Swan's Crossing?
Yes.
You do.
Yeah.
Sarah Michelle Gellar. That was her first thing she was on. You know, Alexis' father was the actor in there. Our friend's father was.
Oh, I didn't know that.
The Asian. I can't remember his character now. I think he was only, Asian American character on the show. That was our best friend's father. Our friend, like growing up.
Wow.
So, but I used to love Swan's Crossing. Remember the dance and the credits?
Well,
okay.
Okay. All right. But, while we're dropping names, I mean, we also went to school with Lala Anthony for a year. So.
Okay. So I have moved I moved into the neyborhood the following year. She's already moved out. Like,
oh, you weren't there at that time? Oh, all right.
No. Yeah.
I
have tons of actors dropping names, but yeah.
I wanted to mention this. All feels somewhat serendipitous because we've been watching Community again, another great show, and there's in season 1 of that, maybe season 2 or whatever, but they're having a Christmas party. It's like a weird trippy stop motion claymation thing.
Yes.
And they, you know where I'm going with this?
I don't, but I remember the episode more or less. So
they at the end they're like opening up presents, I think, and to try to find the true meaning of Christmas, and it's a lost season 1 on DVD box set.
Oh, that's funny.
I haven't watched Community since it was on, so my memory is a little fuzzy, but it was a good show.
It still holds up. It's for some reason I think they're lying sometimes, but sometimes Netflix is like, this is the number 5 most watched show right now. It's like, really, everyone's like a 18-year ago Community binge, but it works.
Yeah,
I can see that happening because when I find myself wanting to binge watch, I watch shows from like 15, 20 years ago that I want to either re-see or shows I didn't get a chance to see. Like, this is before like recording shows. And everyone, I work like a beast. So I'm like, so I have a lot of shows I'm watching that are 20 years old. I don't think my daughter was born in some of these shows that I'm watching.
Lost
so
holds
I
up,
can
though.
see that happening.
I think so too. He said Lost holds up.
I'm not a diehard Lost. I'm not in it yet. I'm watching it.
All
It's
right.
a decent show, but if it wasn't for this podcast, I probably wouldn't watch it. But I can see how it does hold up. It's still like the themes. I think it holds up because it was ahead of its time. There's a
But
lot
and I
of
also
things that you.
well, I was gonna say it also. I think is because it's set on an island, it eliminates technology, which
Yeah.
is a big thing that dates us. You know, like when you're watching an old show,
Yeah.
and these people have like no cell phones or flip phones. Yeah, you're
Pull
like
out the Nokias.
you're watching Saved by the Bell, and Zach Morris has his giant, you know, like
Yeah. Tube televisions.
right. It easily tells you when it's from. And like granted, like Boone has a flip phone in like the first episode, but for the
You don't
most
think
part,
about it, but you don't. Yeah.
unless you're in a flashback, you don't realize what technology was out there because there just is none. It's you're so in the moment about what's going on the island and the relationship between the characters that everything else is totally like
Even the
secondary.
flashbacks aren't so dated.
Right.
They're not that dated. There's a couple of things like with the outfit, the clothing, but not, only if you're looking for it. But as a whole, it's still not that dated.
Mhm.
It's kind of like they did it intentionally.
Yeah. Like let's show like
And this is where
there's a lot of shows and movies where they will intentionally not show what like a computer screen or a TV screen looks like, or a phone sometimes, just because they know that like, look, in 5 years this is going to look dated as hell. It's like, let's just avoid this entirely. And I think they might have done that. I mean, although the airport is obviously a post 9/11 airport.
yeah, people like he's skipping the line. I'm like, yo, he didn't get tackled.
No,
yet.
don't do that.
You get tackled walking into the airport now. But yeah, that did cross my mind. And this is where the writers look back at us and said, yeah, we meant to do that.
Yes, we totally meant yes.
Right. Right. Yeah, I agree. It's for me doing this, the hardest part is not immediately jumping to the next episode though. I watched it when it was on regular television when it came out, and like you said, it was so hard to do it week by week. You'd want that next episode immediately. My husband, in his infinite wisdom, was like, this waiting week by week shit is terrible. Instead, why don't we just let a few episodes build on the DVR, and then we'll just binge like 4 or 5.
Oh, you're one of those households.
Not by choice.
Yeah.
Because that was one show that we always made a point to watch together.
Yeah.
And he worked a lot. So even if I wanted to watch it like quickly, I might not have been able to watch it like the night that it came out or the next day. But then he's like, no, I don't feel like it. And I'd be like, okay.
It was Wednesdays, right?
Yeah, it was Wednesdays. And
right.
So, not by choice, but I would always end up having to wait at least a week or a couple of weeks. And then, and then by the time, the wait was terrible. But by the time you got and you had like 3 episodes, then it was like, yes. Get the popcorn. I'm so in this. And then it was like, wait, that's it. Oh my God. Like I waited all this time and that's it.
I do that now. There's some episodes I'll watch, like, the day of or the next day, depending how many shows I have on my TV. But there's some shows that I'll watch, like the cable series, because they're only like 12 episodes long. I'll wait the whole season for a show, and then I'm like, play. Like, leave me alone. There's food in the kitchen. Cook yourselves or don't cook. I don't care. I'm in my room. Shut up. So there are definitely some shows that I want to watch straight through, and I thank God for technology every day, because it allows me to be lazy fuck.
That's also one of the benefits of going back and watching shows that are now off the air, because all the episodes are available.
And Netflix series, there is no waiting. You can watch. It's fucking awesome. I love you.
Although I wonder, a big part of Lost for me, and I think what got more people into it, was that in between, the water cooler talk and stuff like that. If Lost had dropped all at once as like a Netflix thing, and like Netflix had done like its push of it and all that kind of stuff, like they did with like, Altered Carbon and stuff like that, I wonder if it would have had quite the impact that it did drawn out across months like that.
I think that it might.
I think it would. Like if it happened like today, because now we don't have water cooler talk. We have Facebook. So, you know, I think in its own way, I think it still would have had that, you know, following.
Well, I mean, Netflix puts things out all at once, but it's season by season. So you have a whole season's worth of episodes to talk about. And it's not the same as episode by episode. But I think that it still would have been a huge hit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because as long as you had to,
yeah, I can see how. Even though I don't like the show, I can still see the attraction. I can still see the pull of the show. I think if it dropped today, it would have definitely had the same pull. Probably more so now because we're quarantined.
You would talk to people who have either like never heard of it, have seen it on their Netflix queue, or they've watched the whole thing. I don't think you'd have the time to say like, oh my God, what's the hatch thing that they showed? What is that like? Like how? Wait, Locke couldn't walk before. Like you get like those in between things where everyone's on the same page.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's true.
Because doing it episode by episode, I think it really gives you the time to take in what you've just seen. So like you said, like Walter's special, and then you have time to discuss it. Hey, was that the same bird from his book? Did he make that happen? Did he make the polar bear show up? Locke couldn't walk. So what do you think happened? And instead of, So like then if you had the whole season, the focus would more so be like, so what's going on the island? And what do you think is going to happen to the people on the raft? And where did they take the boy? And not the little things that happen along the way. Yeah.
Because there's a lot of red herrings along the way that you think it's like, oh, this is where the show's going to go now. And it's just like, you know, polar bear smoke monster kind of stuff where it's just like, yeah, that's a thing. There's also this other thing, you know, you can't figure me out.
Right.
I think there's so much going on in each episode. I think a binge watch or episode by episode, they all have their pros and cons. I find if I'm watching a show straight through, I see things that I would have forgotten about if I would have waited a week between episodes. Mm-hmm. Like it's the little nuances that sometimes you forget in a week. If you're watching 2-3 episodes back to back, you're like, I see what you're doing there. I see what you just did there.
Right.
Because there's so much going on in one episode. It works for either way. It works for binging, and it works for like, okay, I need to digest this. I need to like process what just happened here.
I think there's definitely pros and cons. Okay, I mean, this was great. Like, I really like this show. Like, it's definitely one of my favorite shows of all times, you know. So I enjoy the discussion. I enjoy talking about it. I enjoy watching it, whatever. But it's hard because we have to stick to the first season. So we can't build upon what we know. So, you know, if you want to come back up to season 2.
Oh yeah, I was wondering. I hope I get an invite back.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I can't wait.
We invite everyone back. We don't know if anyone wants to come back.
Absolutely.
That's the crux of the situation.
So yeah, we plan to do this after every season. You know, have this discussion and recap, and just, you know, we want to know where the listeners are at, where the fans are at. Like, you know, we want to open it up. You know, we want to be a bigger community than just her and I. But I think that this was great because I feel like you touched upon things that I hadn't seen from a different perspective yet. And so I can appreciate that. And now...
And it's all Greek to me because I'm still like, I'm watching it. I'm enjoying it.
Here's the thing, Agnes. At this point, you've invested so much time in watching and talking about the first episode. You need to go on because it's like you just climbed up a ladder, and you're not gonna like, you know, you need to go down that proverbial water slide.
That may or may not exist on
that may or may not exist.
I feel, listen, I've been challenged and I don't do well with challenges. I take them head on. So I want to finish this bad boy. I want to ride her to the very end of this ride and just roll down that slide. Uh-huh. Oh, hi, kitty. Like, hi, kitty.
Oh,
Normally
yeah.
it's my cat like sneaking into the scene. Like, okay, screw the show. Hi, kitty.
Aw.
There he is.
Aw.
And now, what advice? I mean, that was actually like spot on. But going forward, comparing season 1 to the rest of the show, any advice that you can offer her to like maybe make her feel better about her commitment?
I mean, just that they, kind of what I just said, like you've gone up the ladder, you've learned both or more sides of each character. From here on out, it really is just watching everything you've learned play out. And it's if you've got this, you've got this. So it's I purposely didn't watch more because I didn't want to mention more, but I can't wait to keep going with it. So you're in for some good stuff.
Oh, that's what that she said. Like after she's like, give it like give it 3 episodes. I'm like, okay,
I mean, there's like what, like
okay.
there's like 20 characters, and it's kind of funny in the first episode, like they're textbook introducing each other. And normally in like a sitcom or a TV show, like you learn about somebody by watching them like do a thing, and you might learn their name like through like a glance thing. And this show is literally like, hi, my name is John Locke. Like, let me introduce myself. I'm a this from this. So they had to do so much character development in the first season, and part of the character is the island. So you've learned about all the people plus the island, then more. And I'm jealous. I'm jealous of you. That's why you should look forward to this.
Okay, I will embrace the island. I become one with the island. I want to catnap your kitty. Okay, I like cat.
Oh,
This
so
is
cute.
Baron.
Hi, Baron. He's like, Dad, put me down, put me down.
All right, Jeff. So tell everybody where they can go to find you.
Let's see. If you're interested in mainframes, which I know everyone is, you can learn more about those at my my mainframe podcast called Terminal Talk. That's at terminaltalk.net. We just put out our 100th episode.
Congrats.
After being up for about 2.5 years. Yeah, it's an incredibly niche podcast, but we have a lot of fun on it.
All right, and then we'll also put all your information in the show notes, make it easier for everyone to find you.
Yeah.
Okay. So so that'll do it for this week's episode, or for this fan favorite episode, as the case may be.
Hey.
Oh, you guys didn't catch that? All right, sorry.
Yeah, no.
Sorry. Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm
think
playing
you
with a cat over
caught
here.
it.
All right, it's fine. It's cool. We'll just pretend like it never happened.
He has his priorities straight.
All right. Until next time, I'm Lisa.
And I'm Agnes.
Oh, and I'm Jeff.
That's Jeff.
Always remember to drink responsibly, and we are out of here.
By finishing all your alcohol.
That's not how, but yes. Cheers.
Cheers.
Yay.